could have find time to look at this or call me. Your name was Skip. Ivan, give us a call. I knew it, Mr. Yankovic. My name is Ivan Steve. I work for Video Aces. We make rock videos. I love your work. Good to see you. Let me give you my card.
Remind me to get some help.
3:30 with Ken Craig has been canceled.
Weird Al. I knew it, Mr. Yankovic. My name is Ivan Steve. I work for Video Aces. We make rock videos. I love your work. Good to see you. Let me give you my card.
Remind me to get some help.
3:30 with Ken Craig has been canceled.
It was a very fine meeting. It was good to meet you. My briefcase. Video Aces make rock.
My brother.
Stood. Cube Square Baby Doll.
Flicken älskar inte mig. Och bakom i ensam och sang. My baby doll. My baby doll. Doll baby doll. My baby doll. Baby 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 doll. My baby doll. My baby doll. Don't
You! On top of that car. Back him up.
Hey, it's the Hitman.
That's them.
No, they're completely harmless. We just did their last video.
Fire. No refund! Josh, give him the money back. Down there. You should. You should. No. You should. Listen, man. No.
If it help you guys out, we'll take it to them. Get here, Billy. We can do that much for you.
We love the swanky modes. No problem, Mom. Come on, let's go.
Any ordinary man wouldn't think right. Taking the chances to roll the dice. Any ordinary man would have given it up by now. I want to say it one more time. Any ordinary man would have given it up by now. Any ordinary man would have given it up by now. Any ordinary man wouldn't think twice, taking his chances and rolling the dice. Any ordinary man would have given it up by now.
Well, and there we are. Welcome, everybody to Bad Takes Episode 2
The Deuce.
with Joe and Andy. And happy birthday, J. Andrew World. Happy birthday
Thank
to
you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I want to ask you your age. It's impolite.
It is impolite. Last year didn't count, so I think I'm still 43, but if it did count, I'm 44.
Okay, very good. And we're watching Tapeheads today, and we're bringing on our first guest. Would you like to introduce our guests, Andy?
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah. First guest, most people who probably are watching this right now probably know, but that's because he is my friend, my comrade, my padre from other podcasts, Mr. Forrest Miller.
Hey, Forrest.
How's it going?
Hey, so glad you're here on my birthday, man. And the other
happy
guest,
birthday.
oh, thank you. We got a delay. This is great. All right. The second guest is one of my oldest friends. I've known him since I was in middle school. So it's like it's been a long time. But he is actor, director, and my homie, my man. Gabriel Horn.
How are you?
Gabriel.
I've been making you a birthday card. Sorry. Did you see it?
No. Hey, that's great.
Sorry, I've been busy working hard on this card.
Andy's the only person I know that makes birthday cards for other people, like drawings for other people on his birthday.
There you go.
Yeah, I've been drawing for you all day.
Yeah.
Andy,
not a birthday card, but a screen thing. But you know.
No, it's been fun.
Hey, Andy, I found a drawing you did. I think it's dated like 91 or 92. I found a second one you did. So I have 2 teenage Andy pieces now.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll have to. It's good, actually. The rendering is really skilled. Like years later, in hindsight, I was always impressed by your drawing. That's probably why I stopped. Actually, I think I stopped because you were so into it that, like, I don't know. It's just like I think I wanted to just spend more time watching you do it, and you know, it's kind of been the core of my career, actually, just watching other talent do their thing.
So we're here.
It's always a good way to do it, like right up.
Go ahead, Andy.
Sorry.
I think he is delayed. I think
sorry.
Andy's having some
I think
internet trouble.
he's the one with the delay.
The birthday boy's having a bit of a delay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I'm on the good
all right.
internet, but we also seem to have lost Gabe.
Well, we've lost you, Andy.
He's trying to
It'll
summon
be
a
fine.
spell or something.
It'll be fine. We're freezing up a little bit, but today we're talking about Tapeheads. We all watched the preview at the beginning of the stream. I had never heard of this movie before. This weird.
Wow.
How would y'all describe it? It seems like a weird buddy movie, but very much of the '80s and kind of satirical of the time, but also just it was what it was. I don't know.
It kind of feels like an '80s retrospective, like, you know, because it's like 88, I guess. Like they're looking back at an entire decade of this, like, this, like the focus on like greed and obviously the media and like consumer culture, and
yes,
you know, like it seems like they're looking at it like almost like through a lens that you would think of, you know, in the 2000s or like the 90s or something, you know. And it's kind of crazy that they're making this kind of at the tail end of that.
Yeah, and we should say, Forrest, you're the host of another film critique podcast, right? With Andy, actually. We have 2 people here. What's the name of the show?
So we just launched. Actually, yesterday we had our second episode of our new podcast too, Movie Night Extravaganza. And you know, it's me, it's John Ross is on there, Andy, but like I don't know, we're trying to get a whole bunch of guests because, you know, it's not as fun to just watch the 3 of us necessarily talk about movies. So we've been trying to get a lot of you know, just random either like leftist academics or like, you know, people that are interested in movies that we know, or just, you know, I don't know, all kinds of interesting people that we can find to talk about movies with us. And it's kind of awesome just to be able to like hit people up and say like, hey, you want to watch a movie with us? And you know.
Very good. And Jay Hutch here in the comments says, I'm their viewer. Very good. Very cool.
Our one viewer.
That's better than none, man. Better than none. And then Gabriel, you're actually in the business yourself, right?
I am. Yeah. I started out acting, doing plays as a kid, and then started making my own backyard movies, and then just kept doing it.
Way cool. And I was really super into filmmaking in high school. I wanted to be a film editor for a while there. How much it kind of felt like Tapeheads is a bit about the industry. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's kind of a you know, satirical of Hollywood as well as American consumer culture. I mean, what do you think, Gabriel?
Well, I think it definitely fits into you know, a collection of movies from that time that was about Hollywood, and Hollywood accepted stories about Hollywood in an interesting way. I think it's a very sophisticated movie, actually, even though it's screwball. You know, I've especially after rewatching it this afternoon, it really is kind of a doofus hero's journey wrapped up in a buddy comedy. But it is all about social commentary, and I think what you referenced earlier about it being just as relative today as it was in '88, the late '80s. I think it really talks about us as a culture. You know.
Yeah, I seem to remember a line from John Cusack right in the beginning, where what is Tim Robbins says to him, "You're totally full of shit," and he goes, "Yeah, well, that didn't stop a lot of other people from making money, right?"
Right.
And that definitely is feels like they're talking about the times then and now, of course, but
it fits into like kind of a genre to like Gabriel's point, like a subgenre that seems to have come out in the 80s, which is like video idealism, I would call it. Like kind of like this extremely idealistic vision of like video as some kind of revolutionary future force. Like UHF obviously fits into that, and this movie definitely references that when Weird Al just like, you know, fucking throws him out of the building and storms out. So like
Videodrome.
There's a lot of like movies about videos, and obviously like music videos specifically because, you know, MTV is starting it, you know, in the 80s and everything. So it feels like the one thing that they were super idealistic about was the fact that like short videos would be the future.
Yeah, that's a good point to note, is that it was riding kind of a new wave of video technology that was being integrated in major motion pictures. You know, so again, though, it was just new, you know, Hollywood showing off flashy new technology. It's really kind of Hollywood sucking Hollywood, really. But
Screwball. You said Screwball, buddy movie. It's also kind of a loser comedy. Like it's in the description on IMDb.
It's absolutely, you know, if anything, maybe it's more coming of age buddy comedy. But it's absolutely a hero's journey. I mean, the formula is there. You know,
true.
It's just that it's split into two personalities. You know, so it's very clever, and everybody from top to bottom on that credit list went on to do something incredible. I mean, at the very opening, Catherine Hardwicke is the production designer. I mean, you know, she went on to do Twilight and so many other movies, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing that these groups of friends, that's what they were. I mean, I now know that some of the cast in this movie, and they're pals like us that just stayed together, and you know, when they could come together and do some art, they did some art. How they wrapped it up and got the studio to pay for it, I have no idea. That's the I think that's the secret. But they did it, and they all earned it. They're all geniuses, and it's a great movie. Very underrated. Very underrated.
That whole scene with the on spec kind of gave me anxiety, because I was thinking about leaving film school and not really like knowing how to, you know, like how to navigate through that, because obviously they show you like skills, but they don't show you how to actually like network and find places to work and stuff.
Yeah, I love
it. Yeah,
I love it. It comes in threes, remember?
Yeah.
That's celebrity death, man.
I need you to work 3 times as hard. Yeah, that's such a
No, and I remember going to all these local places and being like, hey, I really like, I need to come up with a video portfolio, and everyone would be like, they wouldn't say on spec now because, you know, I mean, like what, but they'd be like, yeah, you can make a video for us for free. Like,
I think
so did Michael.
I think people might be just a little. You're either conning people now, which is hard to get away with, or you're completely honest. Like, dude, please just do this for me for free. I'm broke as shit. Please.
Yeah.
You know, it's no more of that. Like, man, we'll see how it works out, buddy. Because you know, technology.
Like this guy.
Yeah. Now he's great. He's great. I want to say the Cusack character's got to be based on this 80s band. There was a lead singer of this 80s band that wore that mustache and grease back hair and would dance real silly.
Oh, yeah. Who is that?
God, I can't think of the damn band, but I swear now after watching it this time around that Cusack must have been a fan of this 80s band.
It is weird to see those guys so young, too. But then there's also all the musicians in this film.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so many musicians. That's right.
And there's Xander.
Say what?
There's Xander.
Yeah, lots
right
of
in the background.
Oh yeah, there he is. That's right. Yeah. He plays the studio boss guy there.
Tell us about Xander. Who's Xander?
Xander Berkeley's an incredible character actor. I was very fortunate to meet many years ago, and he's just one of these guys that has been. He is so talented that he's just completely flown under the radar.
One of those guys.
Yeah. But I mean, I recognized him when I first met him, even though he was the main bad guy in 24 at the time, was a hit TV series. I recognized him because he was John Connor's stepdad in Terminator 2. And when I saw Terminator 2, I was like, I don't even know, 12 or something, at the Cleburne Cinema.
Yeah, I think we went together, if I remember correctly.
We probably did. It went together. And let me tell you, of everything amazing about Terminator 2, the one real scarring image was that ugly ass stepdad. And it was Xander. It was Xander. Years later, I met him. I'm like, you're that guy from Sid and Nancy and the step. Like, how can you be this cool and nice? And he's just an amazing dude. But yeah, it just doesn't surprise me. It's every time I turn on the TV, I flip through and there's a Xander cameo or Xander role. But
he did such a good job in Walking Dead. As Walking Dead had like really just gotten shitty after a few.
Which character was he?
He was the Gregory, the guy at
the Hilltop gang guy. Yeah.
Yes, he was the guy that was running Hilltop. That was like that was absolutely like scared shitless of everybody.
POS, yeah, and he was a piece of shit. I love that guy was great. Okay,
yeah, he was so good in that role, like that, like manipulative, like scared, like diplomatic, but out of fear, like character. Because the Walking Dead comics did a really good job of that character as well.
He does a brilliant representation of every man, and that's it. I've never met a more skilled actor, a guy that can turn it on in a millisecond, and just he can be anybody at any time at all. He's his own master class. But
wow.
Anyway, but
is that him in the back in the suit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I was addicted to The Walking Dead until they jumped the shark. Which, spoiler alert, they killed Carl, which I think should replace jumping. They killed Carl. I think it should replace jumping the shark. They really killed Carl when Fonzie jumped over that shark. But then you have these guys.
Every actor just like fled the ship. Like every good actor on it, like Andrew Lincoln and all just kind of fled the ship, and they like didn't want to kill them off because they didn't know.
Wow.
So like every single actor just kind of fled from it.
It's terrible. It's terrible news.
Have you ever read the comics, The Walking Dead, like the comics?
Oh, they're amazing. They're amazing.
But I think it's really funny that they end it like just because like Robert Kirkman had just like run out of ideas. So he just kind of like ends it really.
But then he's
the anti-George R.R. Martin, right?
he did come back because comic shops were hurting, so he started up during the pandemic a Negan series, so kind of continue the story.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool.
But the nice thing about the Negan series, and I'm going to say this, I know the first several issues, Image Comics wasn't taking any money at all, which was really cool. So all the profits, like a bulk of the profits, were going to the comic shops. So basically, like they were just paying for the cost of printing it.
That's really that's really amazing.
So I don't know if they're still continuing that, but I know the first several issues of Negan were doing that. So if you're in a comic book shop, see an issue of Negan, pick it up because that's really going to help out the shop.
Anybody who doesn't know, J. Andrew World is a comic book artist himself. But back on Tapeheads, one thing I noticed, and it was in the preview, there's that kind of scene where he's assaulted by Weird Al, but that whole sequence where he's applying or he's going into different studios trying to get the ears of people, right?
He's marketing himself, right, to the water cooler guy and stuff.
Yeah. But there's that scene. These all have to be true accounts in Hollywood. Like I've done half the stuff rewatching Tapehead. It's like, God, I did some of that. Wow, I behaved like this. So it's all they all did all this. But go ahead.
It's like when Devo watched Spinal Tap, and they're just like, "We're gonna have to quit now."
It hurts because it's true.
Yeah.
One part I liked was when the band goes in the room. And then they do that cut on the action, where he's in there like 1-2 seconds, and then they're kicking him out. Like that's a classic comedy thing. A door closes, cut the door. The door flies open, and they're kicking the guy out. Right?
Yeah.
That was Ted Nugent cameo.
That was Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent threw him out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second.
It's everybody in this movie is crazy. It's legendary now.
Jessica Walters was in it. R.I.P. For that 1 second. Wow.
I mean,
that is young.
Courtney Love.
Yeah, Courtney Love. But I don't know. It was so weird seeing Jessica Walters young, younger, like middle age. You know what I mean? Like, just like after watching Arrested Development and seeing her as Lucille Bluth, like all these
That
years.
was something. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of hers, and yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Are you guys into like Clue Gallagher movies?
I haven't seen.
Enlighten us. Enlighten us.
All right, we'll continue the conversation. I'm gonna find some of these old movies. There's a reason why they got the old man to be one of the leads. I mean, he's one of the biggest, probably craptastic movie stars before people were making. It's like this guy has a legendary. I gotta be real careful what I say. This guy, just let's IMDb him, because I mean, he's a legend. He's a legend. But the fact that these comics and artists really looked up to him as an actor and wanted him to be in the movie is not by mistake that he's one of the leads in this movie.
What and his name again?
Oh my God, he's still alive. Holy Clue CLU Gallagher. He's gonna be like an acting uncle to everybody younger you've seen in this movie. Old Hollywood guy.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like you and Andy feel like about this movie like they felt about like the Swanky Modes.
Well, it's like they maybe Tim Robbins or Cusack or somebody grew up on the Virginian or some old TV show that was his heyday, you know. But it's like after his show, then he became the guy that was in everything, right? He was that actor that was in everything before there was Eric Roberts or people doing that.
Yeah, I've seen this guy in a bunch of movies.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. He was a legend. When they were filming this, they were probably on set talking to him about his legendary experiences.
Westerns,
which is why that joke with Reagan at the end is even funnier.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Which Reagan joke?
Oh, at the end, whenever the video of him getting spanked gets played, and they just cut to the White House, and you just hear Reagan go, "Well, Mommy, remind me to cancel the appointment with the senator." Can we make the picture clearer?
Yeah. He's like, can you make the picture clearer? Yo, Reagan was whacking off. He's doing some trickle down.
Oh man, Jay Hutch makes an interesting point. He says, "I never saw Tapeheads, but worth noting, it's produced by former Monkey Mike Nesmith, who is still one of the most disillusioned pop stars of all time."
And he's in the movie too.
Okay.
See, I'd be willing to bet
the water guy.
Okay, right. I'd be willing to bet this was like a total stoner idea that was somehow originated around the Hollywood Hills, because it sounds like a part of town where most of these people could easily get together and shoot these kind of ideas until something stuck and Tapeheads hit. It's just the cast is too friendly. Like these are all best friends that came together and did this, and the studio paid for it. So we should find one of them to be on this podcast. Somebody from Tapeheads.
It's really funny that I was watching this and I hadn't seen it before, and I was thinking like in the middle of it, like just in the beginning, like wow, this movie really reminds me of like UHF in some ways.
Yeah.
Like it kind of has the same feeling, like the same like everybody kind of fucking around and just like the fact that they were just able to like throw out ideas and like have someone make a cameo, and it was just able to like I guess flawlessly like go through it, like even if it's just someone on TV for a second, like you know what I mean, like so that kind of reminded me of UHF. And just as I had that thought, there was a scene with like the Weird Al cameo.
Mm-hmm. And he comes back again later, but then there's a lot of different cameos. We were talking earlier about Bobcat Goldthwait. Is this guy the prosperity through exploitation? He's hawking a book.
Yeah.
And when you pair this with, I noticed John Cusack's character is using all those kind of like I don't know what you call it, like toxic positivity, like self-help jargon. If instant failure, fear, false evidence appearing real, like he says those things to the Tim Robbins character. And then when you add it with this, like I was picking up the commentary on the economy quite a bit in this one.
That's good.
And that whole self-help field kind of just blew up, I think, in the 80s, because you know, it was just, I mean, Reaganism, of course, but like those kinds of like grifter self-help characters, I feel like were able to really flourish during that time period.
That was the only time.
No, there still are, but you know, it's like since then, you know what I mean? Like
For sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that was it was the perfect time you could get away with that. That's what we were talking about earlier about it. You know, now you've got to be transparent because technology allows us to call each other's bullshit in real time.
Hmm.
In the 80s, you could have a book that would take you 6 months to read to plan your real estate fortune while you fed some guy, hundreds of dollars a month, and he's, overseas, in a pyramid scheme. Like it was much difficult or much easier to get away with this kind of bullshit back then.
Well, we've kind of had the rise of the social media grifter, which is a very different grift than the I'm going to appear on TV and sell you a book on prosperity grift, and
Right.
a very different grift than because media now is like it's a two-way thing. Like so you can constantly see where like people are at, like what, like not what they're doing, like because obviously it's an infinite amount of information to kind of infinite amount of information to show about people and like information to find out. So you have to constantly be putting stuff out so that people like understand, oh, they're there. So that's why like the social media grifter has kind of blown up the way that it has, like, as a concept, because, it's so easy to put pictures of yourself like on a plane or something with a bunch of girls, or like, at like a important board meeting and stage it. But like, you could be a lot more low key, I think, as a self-help writer, because the person's like, anyone that's like buying into your grift only gets to see you for that short time period.
You also have a bit of the overlapping of the courses that you could take, via mail, the correspondence courses, which existed for a long time, and they were not a grift. The comic ones were legit back in the day, and a lot of real famous comic book artists actually went through those type of things. And in the 80s, I know. Forrest and I are always end up talking about Nixon land, but in the 70s you had that transition a bit with the mailing lists of the conservative grifter.
What's crazy?
That
that guy, I forget his name off the top of my head. The guy that kind of came up with that Paul Waitrick or one of those. So that guy is still doing. So now he's doing marketing. He does these marketing seminars, which are really interesting, because when Ben was going to talk to Rick Perlstein, or when he did, I was trying to do research into that, and it didn't end up like making the cut, I guess. But like that guy still does these. He does these like seminars where he talks to like real estate people, or he talks to like, I don't know, just like company associates, I guess, about how to better like market yourself. And he really ties it into his political organizing work, which is funny.
Yeah, it sounds like a situation that I experienced when I was a kid. Andy was before we met, but I was exposed to a church in Dallas that was founded and run by a super con man televangelist named Robert Tilton. Yeah, if y'all have ever heard that name. So Robert Tilton really bilked people for all their money in various different prosperity schemes. But what was always fascinating to me was that it was all tangible, physical media they'd get. So for $5, you give them $5, and then just some random time in your P.O. box, you get something, and you'd have to put your hand on it, and it'd say like mail $2 more in, but outline your hand, and God will do something special. So there's all this real interaction, and that always stuck with me. It was like his marketing, the marketing of his schemes. They were so colorful and attractive, and gave you so much hope. And so anyway, so when I saw this again in Tapeheads, it just reminded me again, like we're talking about, of this element of society that's always, maybe it was legit. Maybe Bobcat's character really, it did feel John Cusack's character for sure. I think, he got words of wisdom that propelled the characters through their damn journey to the win at the end. So, it is.
The smell of bullshit is all throughout like most of the characters. Like they're all bullshitters, you know, especially the two main characters are bullshitting their way along the whole time. The people they're working with are bullshitting them. The bands are kind of bullshit. One of my favorite moments was a shitty guitar solo. Like there's a moment where do you remember that moment? There's like a band playing and they have
they're
this
actually a good band too.
yeah, and like it was interesting for me as a musician. Like I was listening because I like today I taught multiple hours of guitar and piano at a youth center, and the day I watched it, I was at work, like in between lessons, and I had time to watch it. And like it reminded me of like an opera singer who's purposefully singing flat. You know what I mean? You actually have to be trained to do that. And you can hear this guy's a good guitar player, but he's playing a purposefully obnoxious, shitty solo. And like stuff like that. Like I was like, this movie's good. Like I really like I appreciated
That
it.
is funny.
Yeah, no. So Lords of the New Church is the band, if you want to know.
Lords of the New Church.
They were playing Blender Children.
Yeah, Blender Children.
Yeah.
Even Blender Children as a name for a band is kind of funny. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It was. And then that was these guys, right?
Their song,
Yeah,
song was amazing if you like actually look at the words to it. Like, go ahead and drop the bomb. You don't want anyone to live. You know, like it's like politically speaking, I guess it's pretty amazing that like their version of like a pop metal band or whatever is like, you know, they're speaking to the fact that like during this Reagan's like arms race, like, you know, like space race or whatever, like we're so close to like nuclear disaster, and it's like, well, we don't want to live anyway. We're fucking metal, so go ahead, drop the bomb.
I think too. It's like tapping into the that documentary. What was that documentary? The End of Western Civilization Part 2, I think it is.
I've never seen that.
There's 3 parts to it. You know, because everything comes in threes. And part 1, I've never seen. Nobody ever talks about part 1. Part 2 is about like hair metal, and kind of like they did it at the absolute peak of it. And there's just like this one dude like drunk in a swimming pool, just like completely like wasted off, you know, alcohol and cocaine, and just like floating there in the middle of the swimming pool being interviewed in the middle of the night. And it's one of the saddest moments of the whole thing. And then the third one's actually about like gutter punks and kind of like what ended up becoming the grunge era.
Wow.
Oh wait, part 1 was about the LA punk scene in the 80s.
Okay.
I see. Was the punk vibes in this film? I mean, this is a funny scene, but were the punk vibes like only like making fun of the bands, or was there other things that you guys would look at this? And I feel like I'm too young to really comment on what is and isn't punk.
I think that's what I was saying about that band. Whatever that band is, I can't think of it. That Cusack, I know for a fact he's modeling his character after the guy in this band.
Yeah.
They're more a mod band. I think the punk thing was like, you know, I mean, there's some elements of that. There's definitely graffiti and trashy, you know, 80s LA element in this movie, which was realistic. But I think it's more of a mod thing. It was a pop, you know.
Yeah.
They were making fun of all pop culture, and at this time, for sure, it was more the Devo and you know, the silly mustaches and techno sounds and such.
And
Yeah,
like,
it
what
was
time
a lot
to be-
of kind of.
Might make sense why Ted Nugent agreed to do a cameo. You know, music's going down the shitter. He wants, you know, it's like there's a lot of reasons why there's so many cameos by solid musicians in this.
What
That's because they all wanted to be in a
what time to
movie.
be doing it?
They all want to do a movie with the guys who played the Swanky Modes, because that's Sam from what is it? Sam and what are their names?
I'll have to look out.
Sorry, I got to scroll back up here. There we go. Sam Moore and Junior Walker. Sam Moore was in the band Sam and Dave? No, Sam and shoot, it was a big 60s band. I apologize.
Yeah, so they're like old school, respectable cats. That's what makes me think, like, I wish we could talk to Cusack or Tim Robbins about this movie.
If you tweeted him enough, I bet you can talk to Cusack about it, even if he doesn't come on the podcast. He seems to respond to everybody.
Oh, that's good.
They're young enough in this movie. Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Cusack was doing such these great comedies at this time too, because there's like this and One Crazy Summer and Better Off Dead that also came out right around the same time,
Yeah, that's
and like all of them had this like slightly smarter to be a classic type of humor. You know, like it was kind of making fun of different things. I think the Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer is more making fun of you know, like John Hughes films, but it's like if you know, it's almost kind of like he was like an 80s Seth Rogen.
Wow, Sam Moore was the guy that wrote Soul Man,
Yeah,
or not wrote, sang Soul Man, performed. I guess Isaac Hayes wrote it, but yeah, that's a big deal.
no, these guys were big deals, and that's why they got, you know, so many musicians in this. Like, you know, even like some of the smaller roles, like the secretary to Mo Fuzz, who was played by the guy from Soul Train. She ended up going on to becoming like a famous songwriter. I've never heard any of her songs, but like if you look on her IMDb page, like she had a couple of massive hits that I never heard of like 20 years ago that were like on every TV show for a period.
Look at this poster drawing. They have the ubiquitous 80s sexy lady legs coming out of the inanimate object. Sexualizing the camcorder, sexualizing the camera.
That kind of reminds me of Weird Science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is funny. But also, remember they bring it up a couple times about how sex sells. You know.
Oh yeah.
So
Tits and ass.
right.
That's how you add production value.
It would only make sense on the movie poster. It would not be their legs.
It was this guy. They like play him don't they just play him? It's nothing but like boobs and butts, and then there's even like random animals. Like there's a goat's butt and a cow's butt, and like all these random things just in the video. And then he's like, "It was great. It was wonderful." Like he totally loved it.
Am I crying?
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if I was crying right now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Don Cornelius was so good.
Hey, how about
no, go ahead.
You go ahead.
All right.
Oh.
I really thought it was funny that when they did the first video, when they're just pouring the paint onto that band, and just throwing like feathers on them and shit. Like I feel like the only time that you could get away with something like that, because that does look like it could be an actual music video. Like during the late 80s or like the mid 80s, I feel like it's the only time you could really get away with just doing that, and people be like, "Wow, what a video!"
Well, I got a video for you then.
How about the probably the most epic handshake in cinema history? You know what I'm talking? The whole handshake at the beginning.
Oh yeah. That when they were in the security.
It's like 8 minutes long and ends with like a heel kicks and stuff before they go back to work. The first time I saw this movie was somewhere around high school. That one scene. It was so ridiculous. I laughed so much. It was so ridiculous that I remember now. It's embarrassing. I'll admit it. But I tried to practice that, but nobody would. Like my little brother, I was trying to get him to do it. We'd rewind it a little bit. So eventually everybody gave up on me trying to learn that interaction, which was just ridiculous. But it's one of the greatest things I think in film history is that handshake.
That was like 5 or 6 at the time too. So that would have been even funnier.
That was the thing early on in the movie. I was like, oh, okay, this is like buddy movie vibes here. You know, these guys are buddies. But yeah, that was pretty funny. Which, especially if it's 88, that might be the first time somebody's doing it that like silly. You know what I mean? I don't know if you'd seen that before.
Yeah, that bit's been copied.
Of course.
That must be commentary on that. I think you're right. We're just peeling back all the layers of how ridiculous society was back then. It makes perfect sense now. You're right. That's when people started doing the like. And so they just made it like 15 minutes long or whatever. It's like, so that makes perfect sense.
I love that moment when Bernie Sanders was doing the line, shaking hands.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Bernie. I thought you were going to say Bernie had a cameo in this.
No, he has had cameos in movies, but not this one.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I do not want any videos right now.
I think he would have been on the dance floor, you know, if back in '88. He would have been like in the video, like, sure, why not?
I think there would have been a problem. It would have been some kind of problematic. They need to go shoot a bar mitzvah or something. There was a lot of problematic shit in this movie.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Oh,
This
you
movie
mean
was-
like walking in? I dream of some scenario where I walk into a for rent sign and they're like, "Oh, it's free," and I'm like, "Oh, cool, whole studio for free. Let's set up shop, dude." Like that. That's kind of like in hindsight. That's kind of the one like. You know, I mean, we can suspend some disbelief, but that's some '80s magical shit right there. That's some '80s like that's the fantasy part where like, I don't know, we got to connect these two dots. Shit. All right, fine.
If they're offering you a free studio, something bad happened there, or something bad is going to happen there. Like if they're offering you like,
I'd still take that.
That's something I've noticed about a lot of screwball comedy is there's a certain amount of magical realism. Like I'm a big fan of Leslie Nielsen. And there's just always something like an extra arm will just sprout out of his side or some weird shit will just happen, but it's all magical realism.
I have a theory about it. Kind of. I was thinking about it when I was watching this. You know, I think that there was such a I guess almost like patriotic consensus that like, you know, during the Reagan era that like realistically things right now are booming somehow, even though they clearly fucking weren't, but like in the moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's almost such a patriotic consensus that comedy then has to be absurdist at that point, because you know, making fun of reality the way it is no longer funny because everyone kind of agrees that reality is what it is. So like the fact that, you know, that any comment on politics, any comment on, you know, like the absurdity of things has to somehow like be this magical realism thing, because otherwise it's not funny. Otherwise you're just, you know, like they don't want to replicate reality through humor.
What do you call this theory, sir? No. Gotta have a name for it. Forrest's dictum or something.
80s absurdism. But you see it in everything. Like everything is able to be much more campy in the 80s, like pop culture, like music, you know, like film. It's all able to be, you know, incredibly campy, incredibly surrealist, because at that point, like there's kind of a postmodern sense that like the world is what it is. And you know, unlike the 70s, like people were tired of, you know, the 70s were dark. Like the cynicism that came up in the 70s for people was dark. People didn't want to feel that again in the 80s. People didn't want to live in that like post-Watergate, post-Vietnam War brain where everything was terrifying and like you couldn't trust your own government. You couldn't trust, you know what I mean? It seems like we were winning the Cold War in the 80s. It seems like, you know, like people wanted a sense of magical realism. Reality itself was no longer funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think too, it's like the drugs of choice at the time was like, you know, cocaine and Quaaludes, you know, droppers and downers. And that's kind of a lot of with society, with fashion, with this kind of theory that you're building on too. That people wanted to either be like on or off, and there was no in between. So.
Yeah, I think we could boil it down to this is a satire piece written and created by really clever, intuitive artists. A commentary about the excesses across the board of the 80s or of their time, but historically, I mean, how different is it really the excesses of the 90s or the 2000s or some shit we're dealing with now?
Their first project,
it's a little more. It's just different colors.
Yeah,
their first project is like for the Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, right? And it's this full production rap video for chicken, right?
It's supposed to be Grandmaster Flash, but with King
Well,
Cotton.
no. What's even better
That
about that is
brilliant.
that's actually a Texas blues legend. I sent Joe the
King
link
Cotton.
to his album.
Really?
But he's from the same town as Chuck Norris, which is the blues capital of Texas. But he's still around and still performing, and he's been around since the 60s and
Wow.
absolute. You know, you can actually hear that. Like if you see him now doing his blues rock, it's, you know, you can see a lot of what he brought to that rap. Although that rap is his most famous piece of music.
Really?
Now I'm wondering how famous Roscoe's was back then, because I've only known Roscoe's to be in 1 or 2 locations. Nothing ever to look like that, but it would only make sense. Maybe this movie blew Roscoe's up. That'd be cool to find out.
Yeah, because I've only ever heard of it, and I thought it was made up for this movie, just because also like chicken and waffles just sounds bizarre. And then I'd watch other things, like Black Dynamite, and they'd bring up Roscoe's, and I'm like, wait, maybe there's a thing to this chicken and waffles.
Was Black Dynamite before this? Was it made before '88?
No, Black Dynamite came out in the 2000s.
Oh, okay, right.
Dynamite.
Yeah,
I'll have to look into that.
Cotton.
It'd be real cool. It'd be real cool if this movie blew Roscoe's up.
I knew it from Jackie Brown, and when I ate there, it was like, oh, I get it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's the guy. Very funny, in the bucket and everything.
Yeah, the script is very clever, very much more cleverly written than I've ever given it credit for. I thought it was interesting that there's so much inside stuff in the industry, especially that time. The executive guy, the buzz guy or whatever, mentions that it's the first band. What were they called? The first band was called Cube Squared.
Yeah.
And they were the biggest hit, I think, in Iceland or whatever. Which
Yeah.
if I remember that correctly, then that might be interesting because you remember Bjork had her band, the Sugar Cubes. That was a big deal popping around that time. So see all the inside jokes and stuff that would be flowing around in this gang. That's the clever shit that I love discovering years later, and that happened with this movie today.
That's pretty inside. And you said they were an Icelandic band, right?
I think they're Swedish, because they're from the same place ABBA is.
That's right.
Swedish? Okay.
And the song's actually by Devo.
Really?
Nice.
But they're singing it in Swedish for the song.
I found the song pretty funny. Like, there are a lot of funny, obviously the chorus is just funny. This guy's funny. But then...
Weird. I love
I really like...
Is that Milo's next iteration? Is that what Milo Notlet's going to look like when he pops up next time?
Probably. That bit right there that the guy does is he goes don't up like the that got me, man. As a musician, like, I appreciated the music jokes too.
Baby song.
Yeah.
I really like that the paint hits the first guy and he keeps going. The paint hits the second guy and he looks like he's not even confused. He just like leans into it.
Yeah.
It was such a goofy scene, but that's the other thing. Like, there were a couple things. They either presented the videos like completed, and the video itself was the joke. There were very few videos where they show the production of it, and this was one of the few because of the obvious bit here, like how funny it is.
See that the green, that was the guy that, like, the first guy is kind of confused by it, and then the next guy, just not him, the next guy leans into it fully.
Yeah.
Like, he looks up, it's the second one, and he's just like, yeah. That must have been so fun to film. Like, like as like in the real version of the filming of it.
Yeah. I bet it was.
Goofy stuff. Do we really have like screwball comedy anymore? Like, what was like, I would think of like the Scary Movie franchise, but what's our screwball comedy today? Who's even doing that anymore?
I mean, anything Will Ferrell-y that's, any of that game.
I guess Step Brothers, Anchorman type of deal.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Or what's his name? John C. Reilly occasionally does something just brilliant, like Walk Hard.
Yeah, Walk Hard is one of the funniest movies I think that have come out this century.
The side of the millennium. Yeah, it definitely has the music jokes as well. I want an army of didgeridoos. Yeah.
I like that at some point they run out of Johnny Cash references, so they just start making him into other musicians.
Yeah, yep. Ray Charles, I don't have a sense of smell, because that was really the best musical biopic to me at that time, was Ray. To me, that's like the best one. And then all the other ones are just, the Ray Charles one I'm not crazy, or sorry, the Johnny Cash one I'm not crazy about. Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, the problem with biopics is that they've just kind of they found a formula they think works. They found a storytelling structure they think works. Nobody wants to deviate from that. So like every single one kind of becomes a formulaic project, which is fine if you're interested in learning about the person, but like it's also super oversimplified because of course it has to be, and it's like written the same way for every person. Like it starts out there's like a like a flashback in the beginning or whatever, or like a flash forward. Like then they kind of just tell like the story of the person, and then there's the moment in every single one where like they realize like their potential, or they realize like that they're about to like jump off or something, and in that moment, and then it goes to like their career has started and they're like a full star, like and it's the same formula in every single one of them.
Childhood trauma, etc.
Which is why like Garage Days is one of the best kind of musical comedies out there that nobody's ever seen. It's an Australian film from Alex Proyas, who did The Crow and Dark City. He did other movies too, but we don't talk about them. But and I don't want to spoil this movie because there's actually a great twist at the end. But the brilliance of that is that it's kind of mocking that journey, but doing it in a very Australian way. And like I said, once you get to the end, you realize what the rest of the movie was doing. So like again, I don't want to give anything away to that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Nobody's seen it. It's just me and like a bunch of Australians.
In the end, a dingo takes the baby, and everyone's just it's Australian as fuck. I don't know, just runs off with it.
They throw a shrimp on a Barbie.
Yeah, show up to Outback Steakhouse.
Get a blooming onion.
I don't know much about Australia.
How do you guys feel about this this system maybe, or this pattern throughout our culture where artists can be exploited, maybe not in the ridiculous sense that these two characters were exploited in for a handful of music videos, but it happens all day, every day. I have to be real strategic about my time and how I value my art and my collaboration. But it's also hard to resist sometimes when somebody influential or powerful, gatekeeper or such, offers you an opportunity. It's hard to say no sometimes, but
you gotta respect yourself as an artist, but it shouldn't be up to the artist necessarily to respect themselves. It's a system that's been created where if you do something successful, you should be considered they make you feel like being successful is something you should be considered lucky to have done. You know what I mean? Like no matter how talented you are, it feels like there's another 100 people lined up that are equally as talented, and they know that, and it is the gatekeeper like standing in front of it being like, well, if you get exploited for long enough, like you can really make it's the same as the bootstraps thing, really. Like, but the fact that there's just so few films, or I mean, with music too, like so many films, so much music, and so few that really get like the recognition and fame that like you should somehow be considered lucky if you get those jobs. And it's like it should be just considered industry like any other industry, but obviously it's easier to exploit people that way.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes people ask you to do a show totally for free out of nowhere, and then you agree, right, Andy? Just kidding. I'm not being exploited here, but there is the whole idea. I mean, the late great Michael Brooks once said that YouTube is basically we're all Uber drivers on this thing. You know what I mean? Or Twitch or YouTube is that's the other weird thing. Like, how have you seen the internet change the industry, Gabriel? I mean, because now and then Forrest, I'd be interested to hear what you think as you're like a full-time YouTube video person, right? Video producer.
Yeah.
So I mean, how have you two? I mean, you're like steeped in the internet, but Gabriel, how have you seen like the internet change the industry from where you sit?
Well, I can't. I can speak for. I've had content that I've created, produced and worked with distributors or distributed myself. So I have content that's all over the web that I monitor. There's maybe different revenue platforms or whatever. But for the most part, I haven't dug into YouTube, and that much. So I play on the film and television side. So how I can comment on this. The pandemic was scary, but the fact that people were forced to accept entertainment on demand. Whether you liked it, whether you like it or not, or liked it or not, now it's the regular. And what that did for my industry was it validated everything that a lot of us have been trying to do for years, which is being able to get our stories and our content to an audience without having to go through 3 or 4 gatekeepers. So it opened up the amount of opportunities that we have to share our stories and our content. So I've seen it open up like the floodgates opened up. Platforms that weren't taken seriously before now have big corporate interest and are actually getting pumped with funding. And so I'm seeing some interesting things happen. So I think it's great, but we have to, like any other point in history, or maybe when there's been some incredible technological advances, we have to reset too. My son's 8 years old and he's way smarter than I am on any device already. You know what I mean? And so my past is definitely not going to be his future. And every day I'm trying to forget, and adapt to this cyber world we live in. And being a content creator, I find it exhilarating, so.
Way cool. Forrest.
I don't know. I feel like there was this is a perfect tie-in, I guess, with this movie. Like, there's almost like a belief that somehow like content itself for the sake of content was going to free us. Like, all of a sudden, everyone gets to make videos. Everybody gets to be a filmmaker, which is true. But we were so like oversaturated with like a lot of people doing things that aren't necessarily artistically visual or anything, and are just kind of like podcasts. Like every single person, because like especially on the other side of this pandemic, has a podcast, and it's like it gets harder to break out. I think in that sense too. Not that I think that the old system is good, or like I think it's cool that everyone can kind of create their own stuff, and like I'm glad that it's so easy and accessible to kind of like come up with projects. But at the same time, it's like, it's so oversaturated that it's almost frustrating sometimes to like, be fighting for like because the space doesn't expand. Like the space stays the same. Like people's attention spans stay the same. And, it's almost like an overindulged thing. And I'm not saying that about film, like, or necessarily TV shows, but like, even just doing something like this.
No, you bring up a very valid point in that there's only 24 hours in a day, and there's only so many eyeballs and brains on this planet, and we need as many as we can get. That's kind of a different conversation too. I'd love to join in on a conversation that if you guys have something that you pair up with like predatory capitalism, I'd love to be a part of that stream movie night. And I'm sure we could find a great one to just dote like crazy about. Because I'm really more aggravated about that, and I say that in that I've tried to. I used to just think that my stories, I was entitled, just an entitled white American dude. I didn't really recognize that, but that's just what I was. So I had to have the role. It was important for all of you guys, so important for your lives that I have this role, or that my movie gets this, or you know what I mean. It's not, it's not my artistic dreams and endeavors are your problems and your debts and it's like the whole world, But in recent years, I've really, when I started making documentaries and engaging with humans, I learned that it's just not. It can't be about the money. It can't be. So I'm hyper aware of how I behave now and how my work affects the economy and my economy, and and social engagement and stuff. So
yeah, I guess I don't know if it's like really a counterpoint, but we've kind of had like this social justice moment during the pandemic. And companies like Netflix, like corporations that are looking to fund projects, kind of have taken it as like, all right, well, now everything that we do has to be woke. Like everything we do has to have like this social justice lens. That's what people want. And so I don't know. Sometimes it feels like pushing certain projects, and the fact that certain projects get funded and put out there for those reasons, like the storyline sometimes, and I think a lot of it is because, I think like a lot of like people of color and like women and like all these different like more marginalized artists who haven't been able to tell their stories on like a mainstream platform. Like I guess it's kind of, some of them have lagged behind, but sometimes it just feels like they're shoehorning that into these projects that they're not necessarily saying anything radical, or they're not necessarily saying anything interesting. And I really, when I see something like we talked about, like Sorry to Bother You the other night on a stream, like when I see something like that like, really feels like a message you haven't seen in film before, I love that. Like I find that completely exhilarating. I find that like completely magical in that moment. And then, you watch like a lot of this content that's kind of been shoehorned in during the pandemic, and it's like, it doesn't really, like, it's not saying anything new, I guess, besides just like, representation. And some of that I think is a Hollywood echo chamber of like, or like a content creating echo chamber where people with the most money on these platforms kind of are, they're kind of almost like blowing themselves. Like they're like, isn't it great? We're suddenly doing so much, or they're going between kind of blowing themselves and like and like self-flagellating, where like, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, we haven't represented anything and it really sucks. Now we have like a representation playlist. And it's like,
yeah. I think that's a symptom of the technology that we also are embracing and celebrating and hating sometimes, whatever else. And that a lot of development now is development by algorithm.
Yeah.
Especially in our content. I hate to say it, but hopefully the machines or we as a culture work out the algorithms in our favor, because it's not going to go away. But development used to be, we would walk around and meet people. Or for instance, one time I was on I was on Venice Beach, true story, 2012, I was on Venice Beach and I witnessed somebody stealing a bicycle. Like somebody stole a bicycle, like right in there. It was crowded. Nobody did anything. So I went up to a cop and I was like, I just witnessed somebody stealing a bicycle. And so the cop was like, yeah, it happens like 30 times a day. And so the next day I went back to work, and I was working for some MGM executives at the time, developing television shows. And they said, well, go out and talk to the cops and see how often this happens and get a crime report from Venice Beach. And we developed a TV show with Warner Brothers called Beach Patrol Venice. What I discovered, we shot, some of the show. What I discovered is that the cops were actually really cool. There was some crazy shit that happened, but we had like a really fun cop show, and nobody wanted to buy it. But that's how development was. And now, it's a culmination of all the hit stuff on Netflix, all cues development people into this demographic reacts to this, to this, to this. And then you have psychic clowns that turn into puppies because, their mom died on Valentine's Day.
Have you heard about the Jeff Bezos, I guess, when he's like developing stuff for Amazon Studios, has some like billboard or some poster board he shows up with like 17 boxes that need to be checked on every show.
Oh no.
Apparently. So like at Amazon Studios, when they're developing like new shows, now like a big part of it is like Jeff Bezos deciding that like analytically speaking, like these 17 things need to be checked on every single show, I guess, or else
I don't know. There's only a handful of formulas that actually work and produce results. So I mean, you went to film school, you know this. So it's like, fine, Bezos whatever Bezos developed worked for Bezos. Clearly, it worked for Bezos.
But even if it failed, it doesn't, like, yeah. If anyone was going to, I guess if anybody was going to take risks and like develop something, like develop a truly like whatever project, like you'd think it would be the guy that has so much money that he's literally like throwing it all away on a rocket ship. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like whether something succeeds or fails doesn't even matter for Jeff Bezos. So the fact that like he's analytically trying to get these TV shows like designed down to these 17 boxes that need to be checked and everything is like, it's like ridiculous, because we're kind of at, it feels like the fact that like, all these content platforms exist should be absolutely freeing for content creators. Like we should be at a point, where it's like all hands are off. Like if you want to do something cool, like there's so much funding out there for someone like Jeff Bezos that like you should be able to do like, you know, create something really like if you're like a talented filmmaker who's up to work for, you know what I mean, like one of these companies, and instead it's like everything is so much more data driven because, you know, we're living under like neoliberal capitalism and everything has to be part of like a analytic whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think the reality there is if you set everybody free, it would be even more saturated, but we'd all have $10 million pieces of crap that nobody wants to watch. Amazon is full. In fact, Amazon is starting to purge a lot of indie documentaries. I've been a part of it. Most of my films have left Amazon, and
Really?
I'm letting them just any platform that I like. I've got new paths, but sometimes it takes years. Like I committed 7 years to an Amazon deal. Well, it was great. It was great out of the gate, but every year the residuals went down and down and down until some pictures make 5 cents a month. It's crazy, and you get the reviews, and it's like weird Amazon because 2 years ago it had the same streaming values, and it's like so. I don't know what to say. Amazon is not my favorite company. Hats off to Bezos for getting it all.
No hats off. No hats. Keep your
Whatever.
hats on. No, Forrest.
Okay. Yeah, keep your hats on.
I think Jeff Bezos has pretty much won capitalism. Like I don't know. I feel like
he won.
He
won.
I feel like we should hand Bezos like a "You've won capitalism" plaque, and then
we can go to space.
We should drain. No, we should drain his entire bank account, and we should be like there you go. Like
I was really hoping the other day that Richard Branson was going to be on the flight, and he was going to run out of something, and he'd have to order it through his iPad, and like and Bezos would be like, "I'm there," and he like Bezos takes much like toilet paper, you know. That would have been like the biggest. That would have been bigger than the moon landing.
My idea was that Elon Musk, Bezos, and Richard Branson all leave the Earth at the same time, and that's when Bill Gates decides to like, you know what, he was doing that thing where he's going to cover the Earth with like a fucking
he doesn't let them back in.
So as soon as they leave, Bill Gates presses the button. All of a sudden, the Earth is covered, so they can't get back in, and Bill Gates like amasses their entire fortune. And now so then Bill Gates is like the global feudal lord, and the rest of them are kind of just orbiting in space like this until the air runs out. Like
you had like these rogue guys that were out there, like Jim Cameron would be out there in his like rig, and there's all these like crazy people that would have like spaceships and shit too in their yard. And
also, it'd be really funny if your bit where Richard Branson runs out of something and Bezos is like, yeah, sure, and then you actually see like an Amazon rocket just kind of take off like with a delivery person in it, and they're like the same day they're like, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
To interject really quick about the whole Bezos thing and the money and the check boxes, right? I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd, right? Big time, right? I read it almost every year. I reread the books, and then I love Peter Jackson in the movies. The Hobbit, not so much. It's definitely his like. He didn't learn anything from George Lucas. Basically, The Hobbit is like his Phantom Menace and all that shit. But you can't make anything Lord of the Rings now without Peter Jackson. You know what I mean? The Hobbit was supposed to be directed by
Guillermo
del Toro,
right.
And then they're like, we're going to consult with Peter Jackson, and then he just swallowed it. He took it over. But the Amazon is developing this new Lord of the Rings series, right? Where it's like, I don't know if it's not like deep Silmarillion past, but it's like either childhood of Aragorn or maybe Aragorn's like generation or two before him, right? So it's this deep past of Lord of the Rings, and it's gonna be, I don't know if they said it has like $1 billion budget or whatever. But you're talking about checking the boxes. So I'm a member of all these groups on Facebook that are like Lord of the Rings groups. And so a lot of these groups, what do? They're always following the news about these, this series, right? And one of them was that they had put out a casting call for a intimacy director, right? For basically, they're talking about having nude scenes or possibly, the sex scenes or whatever kind of intimate scenes in these Amazon series, and it sent all these prude Lord of the Rings fans into like a whole like craze. They're like trying to petition it. They're like, sex does not belong in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
You know,
they're trying to
all
figure out
upset.
who's having sex with who. How's that even possible?
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
is that what they all have on like their Tinder profiles? Sex does not belong in Lord of the Rings. Like,
Yeah, probably keep Lord of the Rings clean. And
No
it's like,
sex with Shire.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, dude, there was lots of sex in the Shire actually. If you
There
read the books,
there has to be some Lord of the Rings porn out there.
yeah, man. Oh yeah, Lord of the G Strings, I think it was called. But there's all kinds of stuff like that. But in the books, Lord of the Rings, like Sam, Mr. Frodo, he has like 12 or 15 kids or some crazy shit like that.
no, listen, hobbits be fucking.
Hobbits be fucking. So
Yeah.
do elves. Elves be fucking too.
Oh,
Like
oh
crazy.
hell yeah! But if you were an elf, the way that like they're portrayed in Lord of the Rings, like wouldn't you want to just continually fuck? Like I don't know, I would. And they're there for like 1,000 years or
It's
like
crazy.
longer. Like
There's elves that when they go to have a kid, they like put their intention into it. They put like some of their soul into it. There's like one the elf who makes the Cimmerals in the Cimmerillion, his mom dies because she like gives so much of herself to his spirit. So she fucked so hard she died basically. She died in elf childbirth or whatever. So it's Lord of the Rings ain't all one thing, people. You got to relax.
Somebody should just make a film about that. Somebody should make short films about the untold moments of Lord of the Rings. Like there's apparently a lot of sex in Lord of the Rings.
There's got to be, man.
Didn't write about it.
No,
Damn people around.
Yeah, man. And there's a lot of J.R. Tolkien was a progressive guy. A lot of interracial stuff, elves and humans. Aragorn and Arwen or whatever. That's it's a little risque. Gimli and a Legolas, a dwarf and two males. A dwarf and an elf always hanging out all the time.
can I say that intimacy director is the perfect job title for like a neoliberal like PMC. Just be like, I'm the intimacy director here at, like, it sounds like HR. It's like, hi, I'm the studio's intimacy director. We're here to just manage the sex. Like we need to just manage the shit out of it. Like.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a new position that popped up. A couple years. I have a friend that's an intimacy coordinator. Must be interesting.
How'd they do it in all those other
before
movies?
any P is going to V, we have to have you sign these 15 consent forms. It's not us, it's corporate.
Well, I got raped in a horror film, and I just agreed to. That's what made me want to do the movie. Actually, I get raped by a woman in this horror film called Ladies of the House, and that's what when the director told me, look, you're going to get raped and you got to eat your little brother. That's when I was like, all right,
there's got to be a James Franco project, right? One of those.
No. This is in the we shot this in Dallas. You can see it everywhere. Bezos gets most of that money, I'm sure, but it's on you can see it, but it's called Ladies of the House. But my point is that there was no intimacy director. It was look, whoever I got cast against, that I guess that's who gets to see, like whatever, and I get to see this, and it was really awkward. But there was no intimacy. The intimacy coordination was literally us just rehearsing a couple times and like, hey, you're cool. All right, cool. And we'd spent like 3 or 4 days filming previously. It's a cool movie. It looks like a Norman Rockwell painting comes to life and eats you. It's fucking great. I'd recommend. I watch it all the time.
My movie's great.
But you're gonna see it's not amazing, but it's cool. But
you're cool. All right, you want to rate me?
Oh, no.
But there was no intimacy coordinator, so I don't know what I know now, talking to my friend, that it's really about much more. This is what the Me Too movement. This is a result of a Me Too transformation in Hollywood, and it is a procedural demand now. It's a requirement, now. Union films and such. Yeah, it's a requirement because it's just too vulnerable.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Marlon Brando scene in a movie where Marlon Brando, his character rapes or assaults a woman, and they didn't tell the actress?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, there you go.
A stick of butter.
And
as
she
Luke.
was like 17 or something years old, and they like didn't, and she's spoken out about it like, I'm forever traumatized. Like, that's probably the edge case, you know what I mean? They don't usually do shit like that.
Oh no, there's probably a lot more of that than we're aware of. That's the problem.
Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Last Tango, right.
I remember Robert Rodriguez was talking about the sex scene between Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas in Desperados, and like he was very careful about that and really wanted to make sure that that Salma Hayek felt safe doing the scene, and basically had only the people he absolutely needed to film it on set, and she was very appreciative of how he went out of his way to make that scene work.
Wow. So there's a right way and a wrong way.
He seems like a nice guy in every and like he's not like Robert Rodriguez doesn't seem like his frequent collaboration partner Tarantino. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he seems a lot more considerate about things. Tarantino obviously comes off as a sociopath.
I think in reality it's the opposite, unfortunately.
Well,
That's the insider perspective.
You think Robert Rodriguez is secretly a sociopath and Tarantino is a
no, but Robert Rodriguez fucked his life up really bad doing stupid personal things, and it affected a lot of people. Tarantino has held his shit together his whole life.
I didn't know about that, but I guess on a film set, what I'm saying, like, I don't know, like Tarantino did that thing where he had while filming Kill Bill, he had like Uma Thurman drive her car into something, and she did it so like they didn't do the brake thing right on purpose, and she did it so hard that she like had a concussion for a while, and he was just like, I don't know, filmmaking, like.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that sounds like kind of just radical filmmaking, which
Yeah.
I think they both are maybe like that. Maybe Tarantino not so much, or both of them. I mean, they're both so into the Hollywood system. They have been, but Rodriguez is he did a cameo or a collaboration a couple years ago with Jim Cameron. You know what I mean? You don't play with Lightstorm Entertainment and people at this level and behave like that on set. But again, when they made their collaboration, I don't want to talk crap about Hollywood, but the reality is Robert Rodriguez, that's when everything went down with his marriage and stuff, and on their collaboration. So
Jay Hutt says, I think Rodriguez is sending a lot of coded messages about his life in Spy Kids.
Probably, yeah.
That's so bad.
Probably.
It's so nice to see some Frank Frazetta paintings in the background of that piece.
There you go. Wow. I love Guillermo del Toro. He's love that dude. Don't tell me he's an asshole too, Gabriel. Please.
No, I've got a picture with him on Facebook. We did.
He's great.
Yeah, we did Halloween Horror Nights together at Universal Studios several years ago. And no, I wasn't like he was just. I didn't even know. I knew they were giving him an award, but I wasn't supposed to meet him or anything. But he was so damn personable to everybody that it was just I just started talking to him, and yeah, he's very cool. And he asked me. I was there with a ghost hunting show, and he was like, this is Guillermo del Toro, and he's like he was like asking me about what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So it was like he's one of those influential artists that did seem to care, and that was cool.
He seems like a nice guy. You see interviews with him, and he seems to be. I like a filmmaker that they don't have to look like me, but I get the vibe. They're a nerd too. You know what I mean? They're nerding out over this stuff, as maybe not as much as I am, but close to it.
He has a man cave of like nerdy shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think of. Man, I'm blanking a little bit. Obviously, Pan's Labyrinth is brilliant. I am a little sad we didn't get. I was excited for him to direct The Hobbit because I would have. It would have been nice to see what he did with it. He would have made it a lot more eerie, and
his Gollum would have been off the chain.
Less Peter Jackson, more something else, and
because Gollum was just so creepy in The Hobbit.
Yeah, he was.
Like in Lord of the Rings, he really, Tolkien really did make him a much more three-dimensional character. But like in The Hobbit, like you didn't know what the hell was going on and if this guy was going to eat Bilbo or not. And
he's
and
just
I think,
creepy. Yeah, and that's exactly right. He's literally talking about eating Bilbo. How about what you got, Gabriel? You got any stories with this guy? Another favorite of mine, which is Alfonso Cuarón.
No, I don't. But he's an incredible filmmaker.
No kidding, man. Children of Men. I mean, the
Children of Men, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Fisher in Capitalist Realism uses Children of Men quite a bit to just talk about our current political environment. But we are talking about Tapeheads. Did you guys pick up any politics in Tapeheads? I mean, there were some things here and there, but I guess one thing that I find interesting about Tapeheads is how at the end of it, what is their big moment with what's the band called? These two guys,
Swanky Modes.
The Swanky Modes, yeah. Like it at the end of it, it's a callback to nostalgia. Like they bring back this what you might consider a has-been or washed-up band, and they bring them out and they do this soul number. It's weird that even in the 80s and 88, there's that kind of capitalist realism where we're all just clinging to our nostalgia at the end of it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting from it too, was that every character, what was a little villainous in this capitalistic sense. What were we talking about earlier? Like I was saying, everything's about me, and you gotta, Video Aces is the best thing ever. Well, really, it's not. Who cares? It's not curing cancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Try the best. Now you can try the rest.
That's what he says. Yeah.
Right. So no, I kind of felt the same thing. That it just felt like it was a symptom of the time, which is not too different from now. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of every man for himself, wrapped in some shenanigans.
Capitalism makes anti-heroes of us all, I guess, doesn't it?
And that nostalgia is interesting because for whatever reason, you're right. It does remind at least the filmmakers or everybody at that time. It reminded them of a better time. So what are we talking? The 60s is better than 88. You know what I mean? So it's always the same story. This was just very cleverly done.
Well, they're also they're like losers in the beginning. I mean, like it is a loser comedy. Like, so it seems like this obsession with the Swanky Modes and like it seems like this obsession with like being children. I guess they're not really fully formed into adults. They're just kind of working a dead end job. This seems to be something they're clinging to in the movie. Like it honestly has a very self-referential style to it because they're clinging to this idea that in 1970 they saw these guys on Johnny Carson or whatever, and and this is something like this is a moment for the rest of their lives. They're thinking about, they're doing the dance to it, like they haven't fully formed into adulthood, and it's like they're clinging to their childhood because their present isn't anything or like isn't where they want to be, and they have no idea what they want to do, so they're clinging to this past memory, which is the benefit that nostalgia has for a generation of people who, for the first time ever, everything is worse for us than it was for our parents. You know what I mean? Like, so I think even in that time they were understanding that like things are going downhill, people are lost. It's like an entire lost generation, and clinging to whether it's with a lot of people, like a lot of Gen Xers have clung to like Saturday morning cartoons. Like I was listening to Tarantino talk to Joe Rogan the other day, talking about how much he was obsessed with like Saturday morning cartoons. Like all like this is all like because we're not really in control of fully of becoming adults even at this like late age. I think that nostalgia is something that we cling to, and I think this movie shows that very well.
It's interesting. Maybe it's just a big take on exactly what you're saying, that in the chaos of it all, we just want something simpler, Mm-hmm. And for these characters, it was the Swanky Modes,
and they're one big hit.
Yeah.
There are some other things too. We have the political candidate, the presidential candidate, who becomes a big part of the plot later on. But I think in his opening, where we meet him, is his political ad, and he says something. I wrote it down because I thought it was pretty funny. He said, "The Russians have satellite laser weapons. Why can't we too?"
Oh, right, yeah. And they start feeding all the kids gum, and they're circling around him. And
Weren't
That
those
was-
cigarettes or were they candy
No,
cigarettes?
he was I think he was giving them sticks of gum. It looked like he was putting sticks of gum in their mouth, but they
Mhm.
could have been candy cigarettes. But either way, kids circling a politician, talking banana shit. That was really scary because that felt like something somebody would do right now. Actually,
Well, he
So-
seemed to be like the Reagan proxy, right? Like he was. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously Reagan was present in the movie because at the end he gets off the phone with or says like, but like it seems like he was kind of the next Reagan, and this iteration of Reagan is obviously secretly completely like I don't know. This is like conservatism is secretly like masking this total debauchery, I guess. That he
Perversion.
has, in his regular life. And that's something that back then they really, really cared about, which I think that they don't care about as much anymore.
Well,
Whatsoever.
but also then that was like the only scandal that was even considered a scandal at the time. Reagan had been conducting a shadow government, to fund right wing coups in South America and negotiate, a whole Iran Contra scandal because
which they reference.
yeah, they have a clandestine government because Americans are so. Yeah, they just we don't care, just don't care.
They reference it when the guy is talking to his security guards, the presidential candidate, and he's like, "If you guys don't stop, I'm going to send you back to training like militias or guerrilla armies in Honduras."
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
kind of edgy shit for this movie, I think.
But there's also
it all circles kind of around, all the political fumes of that time. I mean, remember the Star Wars thing? Reagan tried to shut down the copyright on Star Wars and Lucasfilm, and it's like, so it's true. The little laser comet. There was a lot of talk about this technology and Russia bullshit and laser weaponry, and Reagan was the mouth of that. So again, they were just really highlighting, I think, the silliest shit from everyday life, and particularly with this internal bubble in Hollywood, just made it that much more fantastic.
But I think the theory that I was expounding on earlier about the 80s and it kind of had to have this magical realism to it to even be for any kind of political political satire, I guess. It's kind of a case in point with this whole thing because there's all these like little asides for people who are like in the know, like the Honduras thing or like the repeated like jokes about like Russia and Star Wars, like all of that, and yet there's no solution to it. Like we kind of had stopped as a country providing an alternative to Reaganism, and there's kind of like a liberal little aside thing where like you can have smart alecky characters in it, like making references to all this stuff and how fucked up it is. But nobody ever really provides an actual solution because people don't want an actual solution at the time. People just want to live in this magical fantasy.
They want to escape. They want a music video.
Right.
Yeah.
See, it comes full circle. We just make entertainment to distract people from the political chaos that destroys our lives. So we make more content to distract people from the political chaos that destroys our lives. I got movies to make.
Yeah.
Gonna try and make good movies that affect people somehow. I don't know.
That's where I wonder, like, there's been so much satire over the years, and it's a thing, as a writer and someone who loves Mark Twain, and I wonder if sometimes folks like satirists give themselves more credit than their, you know what I mean? Like what political outcome did the Daily Show really provide? You know what I mean? Like, not much.
They got a bunch of people to march for sanity, which
the rally to restore sanity. Yeah.
I mean, the small thing about the Daily Show is just that, like, we were so gaslit, and at that, during the Bush era, it was actually kind of refreshing to actually see a alternative view. Now, granted, like Jon Stewart didn't want to be a any kind of political leader or push it towards anything different. Because it was just all, this whole stupid bipartisanship, we should all get along kind of crap. But there was just a moment, and the problem is that, like, it was the wrong people we were organizing ourselves around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's also, I think that, it goes back to the thing that we're talking about with the 70s and 80s, where, you know, it felt like people really did care about ending the Iraq War. Like, it felt like that was something that galvanized people. And finding out that Bush had lied to us, finding out that there were no weapons of mass destruction, like, I think a lot of people kind of were suddenly incredibly disoriented and distrusted the government once again, and realized, like, our government's been lying to us for this entire time. It manipulated us using this like using a terrorist attack, like one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to us. There was all this anger, and then Obama comes in kind of the same way as Reagan, and, you know, all of a sudden it's like, you know, things are back to normal. It's like, oh, this guy would never lie to us. Like, let's just blindly trust him. Things are getting better. He says things are getting better on TV. Things must be getting better. And so it's the same kind of a cycle where, you know, people just feel like, it feels like the outrage at some point just burns people out rather than galvanizing them towards an actual purpose. And The Daily Show is a perfect example of that, to me.
Yeah, I mean, I just asked a Biden supporter about how, you know, like they're just like, I'm so glad Biden's in charge of the environment. And I'm like, well, what about his, you know, the recent revelation that he's greenlighting more, you know, drilling permits, you know, since the Bush administration. And they're like, that's a lie. And I sent them the article, and I'm like, no, it's true right here. Like, well, that's his Interior Department doing that. And just like
fake news.
You know, yeah. So it's just like people want to be comforted, you know, back to brunch, you know,
Blue MAGA.
They don't, you know, they don't care about anything really. It's all a surface thing, because like the Iraq War and Afghanistan was fine, you know, 8 years under Obama, you know, while he was increasing drones, well, you know, and so like if you cared about drones under Bush, you should care about drones under Obama. If you care about immigration under Trump, you should care about immigration under Biden. And you know, but you know, because people are such into these camps, you know, they don't quite see that. And I think what we need, you know, we need projects like Tapeheads, which kind of pushes past that and is able to satirize a lot of those kind of, you know, the squishy middle, you know, because it was also like, you know, like one of the great jokes in there is Jello Biafra shows up as the FBI agent at the end, and his big line was, "Remember what we did to Jello Biafra?" So like, you know, it's the same kind of, you know, like it's almost like it's predicting this modern era, predicting Trump. You know, that was the P tape that they broadcast on MTV before the Menudo concert. That was that you know, it's that kind of almost apathy. Like it's not that they broke the biggest news story; it's that they broke FCC regulations, so they got to go to jail. Yeah, I don't even know if this is. I don't even know if I'm making sense anymore.
No, I don't think it's a matter of people don't want to. They don't want the comedy. They don't want the satire. I think the last couple of years scared the shit out of people. I mean, it's maybe it's been a boon for late night writing or comedy, but
no, it definitely hasn't, because it was just so outrageous that like they stopped being able to write comedy that adequately described it, because whatever was happening in the world was so much more intense and so much more intense and like almost absurdist than comedy. I feel like
beyond parody.
No, that's what I'm kind of trying to say. That there's not enough satire or enough comedy. I don't even know what you'd have to write that would be able to pull people away from this in a way that Tapeheads might have been able to do back then in some situation. There's not enough laughter available. There's not enough comedy. We put our minds together that can, you know.
I feel like Trump was horrible for comedy because he'd like get into like a beef with like Kim Jong-un or something, and suddenly like the comedy bit would be like, did you hear what Trump said to Kim Jong-un? And whatever Trump said, because Trump was fucking hilarious at times. Like even when it was terrifying, like Trump going back and forth on Twitter with fucking Kim Jong-un was also like kind of hilarious. And so the like late night writers would just be able to like put that on screen and everyone would laugh. But it's not like a call to action. And I feel like what satire in the 80s, in the 90s, and now is kind of missing a lot of times. And with the Daily Show and even with Tapeheads, like it's missing a call to action. It's missing, you know, here's something that we can do about things. But instead, you know, this new consensus kind of and this burnout, I guess, this outrage and burnout, like we kind of end up with satire with kind of just like this smart alecky, like oh, this is dumb, right? This is dumb. And without saying like there's a better system. And I'm not saying that like all satire should, be written by socialists and like then somehow like give us a message that like better like a better system is possible. But it kind of gets exhausting to like have all of these like, because it kind of comes from like the failure of the new left and like the idea that like maybe we're not going to take power, maybe cultural capital is power, and that's all there really is. So you get like these smart alecky like in the know, like, did you hear what Reagan did, or did you hear what Bush did, or did you hear what Trump did? Like, we know, but there's no alternative to it.
All the characters in this movie are self-involved and out for themselves, right? So you have what is that woman journalist? As a journalist, I fucking hate the way 99.9% of all journalists are ever depicted in media, like House of Cards. Of course, it's a woman journalist who fucks her way to stories. Like, I hate these tropes that always happen. But the funny thing about this character is she gets the tape and she just wants to blackmail the guy for money, right? And the other weird thing is the romance between John Cusack and her character it develops at a moment like they're out at dinner and he smacks her across the face, right? Like, there's this weird scene.
I'd give this all up for the chance to, what do you say, for the chance to like tongue fuck your like, I don't know, I don't remember exactly how he puts it, but the line was funny.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Gabriel?
Well, yeah, was she not the chick in the purple dress that he was like groping with the contact?
Yes.
Yeah. That's all right. So the first time he met her, he literally the character was in a situation where he was groping her.
Yes,
I'm sure that got big laughs, but holy shit! Rewatch their introduction scene. Because,
the contact lens bit. Oh, your contact lens probably fell on your clothes somewhere. Let me like search you. Yeah.
Yeah, and his hands go down her body, comes up her crotch, and then she stops him before it reaches her breasts, and she's like, "Did you find it?" He's like, "I may need another pass," and then he goes back down, and it's like. That's that's how they met. And that was shocking. That was shocking. I think it was funny as shit 15 years ago when I watched it or something maybe, but now it's like
he still calls him with the music video offer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was like so. No.
Well, the funny thing is
that's how the people that he was. I don't know, this character he was exploiting through this character. That's how the Trumps behaved. That was this predatory excess. Privileged mentality of the 80s that a lot of people had. Anybody that had resources like Trump or was enabled like, clowns like that, then of course they were.
He didn't have any of those resources at the time. Like he's, he's making shitty music videos for like whatever. Like there's a serious like power imbalance, obviously. Like, like in that sense. So like it's like, he's clearly aspiring to be someone like that, and the groping is definitely a part of that, and like this weird like over sexualized like I guess it's over sexualized but also like witty front that he's putting on.
Right.
But she's also she's a somebody. He's not in that context. Yeah. But then on the other layer on top of it, I feel like there's a Hollywood thing going on there, because later in there, he literally smacks her across the face, and then the next scene she's blowing him. So it's like it's this old Hollywood where the guy smacks the woman and then they're kissing a minute later. It's like 50s Hollywood, Well,
the actress there, Mary Crosby, she was in a terrible movie called Ice Pirates, which I love Ice Pirates. I will fully admit that. But whenever they introduce her character,
Ice Pirate sounds like a slur. It sounds like it's not something you should be able to say. You're like yo, that's an
Andy.
Ice Pirate right there.
That's super problematic, Andy. I can't.
Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. So when they introduce her in that movie, the first thing they do is like she's asleep. So the main character played by Robert Urich just like walks over, lifts up her shirt, looks down her blouse, and then he's like, "Okay, we got to go." No, and then like they have to run because the security. It's basically a knock off of Star Wars. Security's coming, and then like the other guy like starts looking down her shirt too. It's like, come on, what are you doing? We gotta go.
Oh my god!
Is that a pre Addiction and Collapse Robert Downey Jr.? Is that
no? This is Robert Urich.
Oh no, I'm saying on the poster for. Oh, it looked kind of Robert. Oh no, all right.
You're thinking of Robert. It's Robert Urich's the star. You got Ron Perlman, Angela Bassett. It's a fun movie.
Now I see it. The poster was like really like it wasn't the quality was bad, and it kind of just he had like his square jaw was kind of Robert Downey Jr. esque.
This looks like they were doing concept art for Spaceballs or something.
It pretty much was like a Spaceballs before Spaceballs. It's kind of fun.
It's like Spaceballs meets Police Academy.
It's definitely worth watching.
Spaceballs already meets Police Academy with Michael Winslow's scene. That's one of my favorite scenes of all time.
I wish I could do that.
I got the beeps, the sweeps, and the creeps, sir.
That's right. That's right.
Man, what a weird movie, Ice Pirates. Whoa. Whew. When are we going to get to that one, Andy?
We also, it's kind of crazy that in the 80s, like you could just write Michael Winslow into whatever just to do those sound effects. Like you'd just be able to like every movie you'd be like, all right, we need a role for this. Like you'd be like, he needs to go. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did commercials and everything.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that guy. Like he's the peak of impression artistry, right? He can do Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy, and the guitar. Like he can do.
Which, by the way, since we brought up before we started streaming, we brought up Bobcat Goldthwait and his kind of character there. He was in Police Academy 2, where he did
the villain.
That character of Bobcat Goldthwait, which was 3 years before this movie. So, this was kind of
yeah, he was just playing the straight man then. Interesting.
Yeah, then he did voice acting in the 90s too, like on Eek the Cat.
Oh yeah.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, but in this one movie, I found it crazy, especially if watching it today, why he didn't do that character. He was like a total straight man. It's like there was a chance he was going to get a movie of the week playing a detective or something.
That was
anyway,
weird.
It's like seeing Sam Kinison, but he's extremely like mellow and he's just like, hey guys.
Okay, guys.
There's another movie that came out, and I know it's on the list that me and Joe share, but it's a movie about the slasher is a metal star who commits suicide, and the nerd from the Michael J. Fox show from the 80s.
Family Ties, yeah.
Family Ties, the nerd from Family Ties. He's playing this metalhead nerd in high school who somehow brings his hero back to life after he commits suicide, and they get Ozzy Osbourne to play a pastor who hates heavy metal, and he's up there like going, heavy metal is Satan.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of almost like he's playing a version of that.
Guys, I have a Bobcat Goldthwait deep cut. How many of y'all know Freaked? You ever know this movie, Freaked?
Yep. It's a hell of a movie.
My! Talk about weird, irreverent 90s comedy. Forrest, have you seen Freaked before?
No, I haven't.
Dude, it's one of the fucking weirdest movies.
We could do a whole episode on that. Hey, if you want to see the greatest Bobcat ever, check out Shakes the Clown.
Shakes the Clown.
Yes.
Please watch Shakes, please.
Okay.
It's all set in Palookaville. It's the most brilliant fucking comedy I think of all time. It's set in a clown universe, and their enemies are mimes, and everybody's horrible. And Bobcat is this horrible birthday clown, and but more interestingly enough, his best friend could be in real life is a brilliant performer named Tom Kenny. Tom Kenny does the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah. I love Tom Kenny.
Well, Tom Kenny has a band, Tom Kenny the Seas. He is just one of the most underrated people of all time. He's incredible. But Tom Kenny plays a cokehead rodeo clown in Shakes the Clown, and it's fucking one of the best roles ever. So I'm telling you, Shakes the Clown. Let's talk about that one sometime.
Okay. But Forrest, Freaked is about all these. It's like a freak show, but they've all been mutated by some chemical, Zygrot 24, some weird thing. And Bobcat Goldthwait's character is literally a guy with a sock puppet for a head with the Bobcat voice. Like that whole thing. Like that's the whole thing. But then when you watch like the rest of the movie, Mr. T's in it. Mr. T's the bearded lady, right?
Alex Winter. Yeah, that's right. Alex Winter. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just such a weird movie. Yeah. Who's that actor who plays the main character? Who is that? Shit. Randy Quaid's in it. Brooke Shields, Alex Winter. Yeah. William Sadler, Brooke Shields. So funny. Just what a weird fucking movie. My sister played this for me, or got it when I was a kid, and I was just like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Anyway,
Alex Winter is a perfect person to talk about with this too, because it's kind of back to the same theory about like 80s movies and satire. Like to be able to say anything like Bill and Ted literally had to go back in time to get any satirical value out of it. Like
Right.
yeah.
But he's also in the best. He's in the best Death Wish movie too, Death Wish 3. Alec Winter is in Death Wish 3, which is the best Death Wish movie.
Ooh, well, there you go.
It's the one where they just decided to just be as nutty as possible, and you know, like it ends up like a bunch of elderly people with machine guns taking out punks.
Wow, it's hard to out nutty Randy Quaid, IRL and acting. I would say that movie, he's so good.
I gotta point out this comment. This Jay says Shakes the Clown is Citizen Kane of alcoholic clown movies. It's true. You nailed it.
That's
Jay.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Didn't Randy Quaid recently go full QAnon?
No,
I think he had an Instagram post where he went full QAnon, and I was like, that not surprising.
It's too bad. It's too bad he lost his damn mind because shit.
It's so good at everything.
He's got a library of classic craptastic movies, you know.
But that's his character too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's clearly lost his mind. Like, one of the funniest ones, obviously, that I mean, you know, his roles in like the National Lampoon's Vacation movies. Like, you know what I mean? Like that has to be how he is in real life. I feel like, and like that level of just like oblivious and like in your face and like redneckish. So like to see him kind of lose his mind kind of feels in character. Like it feels like
I think it's bad drugs. Like
it feels like he's spent the last 40 years method acting. Like
I think he spent the last 20 years doing way too many drugs or something. Did you guys see the video? I don't know if, but did you see the crazy motel room videos with him and his wife, the weird shit that a few years ago?
No.
That happened in my county. The hotel that they stiffed out on like a luxury hotel in Santa Barbara. So I'm in northern Santa Barbara County, and I'm like in the working class ag town, right? North County. And Santa Barbara is like the Riviera of California. Oprah lives there. The Royals live there. Have you ever been to Los Alamos, Gabriel?
Yeah.
On the 101. Yeah. Los Alamos right near me is called Little LA because all these fucking stars keep buying tasting rooms and fucking Randy Quaid or no, sorry. I was talking about Randy Quaid, but like Emilio Estevez or his wife has something, and like all these different people, Kurt Russell. I ran into David Crosby, like getting a baked good once.
Wow.
And so they've gentrified the fuck out of that little town. But Santa Barbara, that's where Randy and his wife, they skipped out on a hotel bill. In fact, I was just bringing up this article, and it's the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's office that sent out the arrest warrant for him. Hilarious. He got arrested.
How did Emilio Estevez have no like staying power as an actor? And Charlie Sheen, who is someone who on this side of the Me Too movement should not exist. Like, you know what I mean? has had complete staying power. Like,
I mean, I think it's just like I was thinking about this with because I've been drawing Emilio Estevez for you, and like
I didn't know about this.
He's a good actor. I mean, he's a way better actor than a lot of people even give him credit for. But he's kind of like he's very much of an everyman. And as he aged up, he couldn't quite get those kind of like dumb but likable characters. Like he's never necessarily played stupid, but like Breakfast Club is kind of like the ultimate kind of role he was getting for a while. That kind of like he's not quite as dumb as he seems, but he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. But then he tried to kind of break it with Mighty Ducks, and he just was like wanting to get more creative, and he's been doing more behind the scenes stuff. But I think he just kind of aged out of it because he's not quite the looker like his dad or brother is. He's a bit of a potato, but I'm not knocking him because he's very talented, both in front of and behind the camera. And so like whereas like Repo Man, you get to see him play like anger, which he usually doesn't get to do. Usually it's like I said, likable, not always the smartest guy, but I just don't think there was a market for him for his type of movies.
That Repo Man stream is going to be fun because I feel like the guest list keeps growing and I can't even remember who we've invited on at this point. So it would be really funny if there was just 15 people on or something to talk about Repo Man.
Oh God, yeah, that's going to be nuts.
Can't believe you called Emilio Estevez a potato right now, man. Jeez.
Hey, let's get Emilio Estevez isn't doing anything. Let's get him on the Repo Man stream.
Well, he's directing a lot, man. He's like I said, he's amazing behind the camera, and he's also great in front of the camera. I'm not, I love Emilio Estevez. Just saying, he's not the he's got this kind of plain like potato-y kind of, like you can put potatoes in anything. You got like you want to make tortellini, but you want to do it a Polish style. You got pierogies. Potatoes are great.
I really wish we were on StreamYard right now and I was in control of it, so I could write like J. Andrew World #1 Emilio Estevez scholar. Like on StreamYard you can change what people's like.
Okay. I'm using Restream, so I've been wanting to talk shop with you sometime, but maybe.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just paid for a month of StreamYard. It actually like. I guess there's like a trial and you have to like decide if you want to keep it. But now I was like, all right, well, that's why you need to subscribe to our Patreon because so far the overhead for this has been far more than I've made. So patreon.com/movie night extra. There's my
There you go. And Andy, this is just for you. Okay. Here it is. J. Andrew World, Emilio Estevez scholar.
Yeah.
Right here on the
the world's foremost.
All right.
Well, wait before we stop, can you play the video I sent you? The Trump Weird Al thing. It's just a minute.
There's a Trump Weird Al thing. Where do I go?
I sent it in the private chat.
Oh, earlier. I see. The only thing that I worry about is that I'm not sure if Restream can do audio if I'm doing a screen share. I
think it does. Because I've been on people's show that have done Restream and they've done it.
Oh, Jesus. Let's try this out then. Let's try this out. Okay. All right. I got the screen share. This is the guy. Now, can you hear this?
No. See if just
go full screen.
Yeah, you might be able to just play it through your through your microphone. It's not going to be great quality, but like.
Okay. I see what you. No, I have headphones in, man. I'm not going to be able to do that.
Damn. All right. Well, I really wanted to play. Have you seen that video where he's like, it's the that Trump impression guy that does the really Weird Al, folks.
Weird Al Yankovic.
There's a box called Share Audio. Whenever you do that,
where is that?
So whenever you're like, you hit the screen share, and you can do like Chrome tab because that's where I'm at. Is in Chrome. You select the tab. Make sure that the Share Audio button is clicked.
Okay.
Is that for Restream too? I know that's how you do it on StreamYard.
Apparently so. I mean, I just thought I'd check since we're talking about it, and I'm just like, wait, Ben just told me to do this last Friday.
Yeah, I'm in Restream, guys, so I don't know how the hell. I don't even know.
I literally just saw Restream whenever I was looking at the Share tab button. So you might have to exit out of this, start fresh.
Let's see. Let me try. Oh, Chrome tab. Okay. Trump Weird Al rant. Share audio. You're the man, J. Andrew World. You're the man. Let's hear it. Okay, everybody. I'll do my Trump impression later. Let's hear him.
Oh, we love Weird Al Yankovic. Weird Al, an American original. He's got more money than sin. More money. He's probably, I don't know, maybe he's got more money than me. I don't know. He's got more money than me, but he's got a lot of it. He's got a lot of spunk and he's got a lot of talent. I've never seen anybody who gets famous playing accordion. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Who's doing accordion? And we don't even know how it works. Science doesn't even know how it works. He gets the piano and he squeezes it and it sounds really crazy. And Weird Al figured it out. God bless him. I think it's great that Weird Al figured out that accordion. I don't even know how they do. We don't even know how we do it. Does it need batteries? We'll never know. We'll never know, and science doesn't know. But Weird Al was very mean to Coolio. Not very nice. Coolio was very upset with Mr. Weird Al.
Oh, shit.
He didn't ask for the rights. He just went and did Amish Paradise, and he just didn't even ask for the rights. He didn't even ask for it. When he did Gangsta's Paradise, he had such a big hit with Gangsta's Paradise. And, you know, with Amish Paradise, what they do is they take the music, and they steal the whole thing. They just steal the music, and they write a new words, and it's a new song, and everyone goes, oh, it's so great. And he writes new words to it, and suddenly it's funny. Best comedy album. It'll never get best music. Never get best album. Breakout star. He'll never do it. They'll never get it to him. No CMAs, nothing. But people buy it. They like it because it's a good product, and we love what Weird Al does. You know, Weird Al has originals. Night Santa went crazy. Albuquerque, but they'll never like it as much as White and Nerdy. He was very mean to Mr. Chameleonaire, and we'll never like the originals quite as much as the parodies. We like the parodies so much. He does such a good job with it. Really, really good job. eBay, Backstreet Boys. You know, he did eBay years after we totally forgot. They come out with eBay. And I had totally forgotten who are the Backstreet Boys. I don't even know, but we had an incredible conversation with Lou Pearlman.
Oh my God. That was fantastic. Weird Al, folks. That guy's so good. He really gets a lot.
He's an American original. He has multiple of the Trump cadences down too, because there's a thing where Trump gets like, there's a thing where Trump goes up and he's like Weird Al, but then he also does this. He does this.
Yeah. He comes up and he goes down. He gets the sing song Trump, and then he goes into the guttural Trump. You know, like there's different sides. What's that guy's name?
J. Austin Johnson.
J. Austin Johnson. He did a call into Majority Report that was pretty damn funny.
He did one on Gorilla, or no, he did one on King Kong and Godzilla, where he's going back and forth, and he's like big lizard fights buildings, doesn't like the buildings.
He nails Trump's poor grammar. I like when he doesn't have he doesn't have articles down or anything. When you see what they're doing with woke, it's very bad. It's very bad.
He also nails Trump's obsession with pop culture, which is the thing that Trump cares the most about. Like before Trump was running for any political office, like his Twitter account would just be him watching TV, tweeting about pop culture, which it's really amazing that that Trump got to where he is. Really amazing. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how. No, but because he would start these weird beefs with celebrities that no one had even remembered for 10 years because they said something about him on TV, or he'd be like, they look fat today. They look fat. I don't know why. I don't know who let them go out like that. I don't know what stylist. Their stylist doesn't like them very much.
We were talking about Trump killing comedy earlier, and didn't it come out later recently that Trump was trying to get the DOJ to do something about SNL? Like he would openly attack people who were making fun of him. You know what I mean? Like Baldwin or whatever.
Rosie O'Donnell, I think he's still attacking her.
He won't stop. That's a greatest hits right there.
It's just it's like a lifelong thing for him to destroy her or something.
Yeah. So Gabriel, we know you got to go. We don't want to keep you all night. Andy, do you want to wrap the show up, or do we want to go a little longer with Forrest for your birthday?
The big thing is I want to make sure Gabriel doesn't have anything he wants to plug.
Plug Gabriel.
Yes, I want to hear your plugs.
Man, I don't know. I just we had a great second year of Big Bear Film Summit. Speaking of pandemic, we had a call for pandemic movies filmed in 2020, and just as a little bit of trivia, the majority of our films were themed around death, primarily a mother's death, and there was an exceptional amount of submissions this year involving puppets and death.
What?
That's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, so Big Bear Film Summit, we're doing it again next year. And if you go to bigbearfilmsummit.com, you can see kind of what we're doing all year. And on the personal side, I produce some film and television. I'm active on a documentary called Picasso's Christ, where we're trying to authenticate a sketch by Pablo Picasso from 1906 that led me into the gutters of the art world and trying to claw my way out.
That sounds interesting.
Thank you, guys. But thanks for having me, and anytime.
You bet, Gabriel. I think we'll see you again, probably. We already mentioned bunch of movies we could watch with you, but cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Anytime,
Thanks for
guys.
being here
Thanks.
with us, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
And
you.
that was Gabriel, everybody. That was a lot of fun.
Gabriel Horn.
A real Hollywood man. He's real of the moving pictures. Oh boy.
You know, they say movies go in, movies come out, and some of them have staying power, some of them don't. He seems like he's got his head together. But let me tell you, you have to watch out, because a lot of people, you do something successful, a lot of people want to hop on, and you can't really trust them. You can't really trust them.
You can't trust them. Yeah, that's the thing. When you do impressions, it's very easy to have your impression be someone else's impression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's how a lot of us learn starting out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that guy's Trump impression is almost like a portrait in a way. Like he's chosen certain things about Trump. You know what I mean? And that makes it a lot of fun.
It's kind of like
I'll
when
send you
Dave,
the King Kong and Godzilla one.
Okay, we could watch that. What about you, Forrest? Plug away.
Well, I mean, right now, my one big project that I'm working on, I'm taking a break from a lot of the more political stuff. So my one big project that I'm working on is Movie Night Extravaganza. And, we have all heavy hitters on that show. John Ross, J. Andrew World, who's, for his birthday and all. I think that I'm formulating who's going to come on each episode, but so far I've reached out to a lot of people, and there's been interest from a lot. There's been interest from a lot of people, a lot of folks, a lot of folks want to.
Really great what they're doing over there. Movie time extravaganza.
I think some of them are putting it off and seeing if the show really goes anywhere, but that's okay. That's okay. It's an interesting time to be starting a podcast, I think, because I think during the summer a lot of this stuff kind of dies down a little bit. Because especially doing a political show, it seems like politics, because it's not like there's a congressional session right now.
But of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, this is your show, Movie Night Extravaganza. Everybody find it on the YouTubes.
And patreon.com/movie night extra. It's really, I'm happy that nobody's picked Movie Night Extra for any of their URLs. It seems like it's been wide open.
Very cool. Andy. Say what for us?
Oh, I said I'm trying to find this Trump thing.
Oh, okay. That'd be a fun thing to end with. Andy, what about you? What do you got going on, buddy? Happy birthday, by the way. Kenzo was saying happy birthday, Forrest. No, Kenzo. It's Andy's birthday today.
Yeah. It's Andy's birthday today.
That's what France is doing right now, celebrating my birthday with military parades, fireworks, aircraft flying over the city. Absolutely love the fact that the French love me so much.
They do it every year.
Every year. It's fantastic. I am like, Jerry Lewis. Anyways, big thing. I've been doing stuff for Forrest today. No, it's like, yeah.
You all are so busy in this world. I feel crazy enough doing my weekly show once a week, and then hopping on and doing this. We kind of doing this once a month, every other week, maybe. And it's already like, I can't imagine. Y'all are like full timers over here.
Yeah.
I've had to kind of take a break from stuff because I don't know, like a lot of it was just going things. It's so depressing sometimes working on global political stuff, and I don't know. I feel like I've been wanting to do this movie project for a really long time. For 3 years, I've been working on it, thinking about it, and then just haven't pulled the trigger. And I decided for the summer, while I have less work, I'm gonna try pulling the trigger on this.
Very cool. And I feel you on the politics stuff. It can be just depressing because there's so little good news as you're working on that kind of thing. And Jay Hutch is being funny in the comments. Happy birthday, Joe. Everybody's been wished a happy birthday now.
It's all of our birthdays, isn't it?
That's
yes,
true.
it's Gabe's birthday too.
We've all been born. We're all gonna die. It's very sad.
Although his also has a celebration, not quite as happy as mine because his is on the Ides of March.
Oh, well then. That's not that bad.
No.
Actors might get a kick out of that though.
I can't find the Godzilla and King Kong one.
That's okay. We got
All right.
Picasso Christ documentary clip I sent you.
Oh, okay. Let me find that. I got to wrangle. Give me a second. And that's Gabriel's movie, right?
Yeah, that's his movie coming out whenever. I know it keeps like wrapping production and then going back into production. It's happened like 3 or 4 times over the years.
Oh boy.
But it's he's really done a great job like seeking out people who are going to be in it. This gives you a good flavor of some of those people, and it's you're going to see it's going to be a really fascinating story.
All right, well, let's give it a look. Maybe this will be the last thing we do. We'll say bye really quick on the other side of it, but let's give it a watch.
And something of this size, you can almost imagine Picasso going through a gallery with a sketchbook, something that would have been easily transportable in Paris.
I got this at an auction.
Like what kind of auction?
I got it on eBay.
So an original pencil drawing and the date of 1906.
It's so intimate. If it's by the hand of the master, then that certainly seems likely. If it's by the hand of a forger, it's a very good forgery.
And a lot of the people that are not fans of Picasso think that he made a lot of the bold moves he did because he wasn't great as a traditional artist who could render, but he could render really beautifully.
The terrifying part is what's on the back.
Andrew Crispo, that's a strange tale there. The big rock star of the 80s, New York, and then he disappeared.
The leather bondage hood was shown in court for the first time. The black mask which Vesti wore when he was shot twice in the back of the head last February.
Whoa.
Forensic experts testified that hair samples found in the mask belonged to both Vesti and Bernard Laguerre.
Inmates being interviewed today. 3439, Laguerre.
It was shocking to me when we realized that he was studying in El Greco where Christ was being violent.
So you get this really the sacred and the profane interfacing.
Well, I know all that. What are we doing here? What are we doing here, Gabe?
So why is this camera's down there like that?
And that made this story that had convulsed the city. It was now the crime of the year because Bernard Laguerre was saying that, yes, I killed Ivo Vesti, but I did it because Andrew Crispo instructed me to and was there when I did it.
Yeah, that's a label from the gallery. That is the gallery's label right there.
This has been a 10-year journey, getting to the point where I can actually authenticate this Picasso.
It's a fake until you prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is exactly what it is stated to be.
I'm scared. I don't know if I want to know the truth.
It's the journey that I think you've been on that's the important part.
Try this. Hi, Andrew. Mr. Crispo, nice to meet you.
Well, that looks like fun.
Yeah, you can see why I'm excited to see that movie. I know there's been a couple different cuts of it, and it's just, yeah. And you notice Xander Berkeley's in this too.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're excited to see it because Xander Berkeley's in it.
No, exactly. I did actually record a piece for this movie, so we'll see if it's in the final cut.
Whoa, talking about art, you mean, or
sorta? I actually am a voicemail message. I get this email from Gabe, and he's like, "Can you do a German accent?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so next thing I know, I'm in a recording studio. I got a good friend who's got a recording studio right around the corner, and he recorded it for me. And so I was in the same booth that Henry Rollins was in, and a bunch. Yeah, I don't know if Kim Gordon recorded in that booth, but I know Henry Rollins did.
Okay, I keep trying to share this thing Forrest just sent me because he wants to. Here we go. We'll do one last of I can't remember his name, but
James Austin Johnson.
James Austin Johnson. Let's hear it.
Familiar with Mr. Shin, Shin Godzilla. He's someone who came to this country in search of a dream, which was to crush the buildings and to shoot big lasers. And in many ways he accomplished it, but with Shin Godzilla, that was the original one that was very good. It was very, very good, but Gareth Edwards one, they did a big Batman Beyond. It wasn't exactly, sometimes they try to reboot something in a way that was already, what happened to the Puff Daddy and Jimmy Page with Come With Me, that Godzilla. You had Leon the Professional in it. You had a lot of great people. And a lot of really important people came together to make a very good Godzilla. Big Lizard fights big boys. And he's not so nice to the buildings. He doesn't like them that much. Sort of in terms of King Kong, who we're not as close with. We don't know King Kong as well, but we know that of him. And we're very, we're looking into it very strongly because there has been a disturbance between Godzilla and King Kong. Wouldn't it be great if we got along with King Kong, frankly? Because we already have a very beautiful, I had a very beautiful conversation with Godzilla. And he says he doesn't want to fight with King Kong, frankly. He was fine with hanging out and draining the swamp of the Japanese bureaucracy, He had his own agenda. And we wanted to help, we said we want to help Godzilla with Godzilla's agenda. And of course, King Kong comes along, and King Kong doesn't have America's best interest at heart. But wouldn't it be great if we got along with him? I think if we just sat down and we need to sit down and figure this out. We need to block all kaiju from coming into this country until we can figure out what the hell is going on. Because it's not so good, is it? It's not so good.
Oh, man, that's good shit. It doesn't get old. It doesn't get old. Well, guys,
we're not as close to, frankly. He does the thing where Trump does this, where he says frankly, like in the middle of something, and it's like you can almost see it spelled out, like comma, frankly, comma, like he uses it as like a stop in between two phrases.
Yeah, he has a lot of those bridge words in between thoughts. But guys, I think we should probably call it a night. Tapeheads. What's your last thoughts on it? I thought it was funny and fun and definitely of its time, but I thought it was smart enough, as Gabriel was saying, a lot of inside Hollywood people kind of goofing on the industry, goofing on each other, goofing on themselves, even Ted Nugent and, all these other people kind of making fun of the whole film and music. But
yeah, I think it was pretty great. One thing that we didn't touch on that, in terms of like, kind of offensive or out there jokes was obviously the whole drag queen thing, which I always hate that in the 80s you could just like find a drag queen and be like, haha, drag queen, as if that was the joke. Like, I feel like that's super fucking, like, on top of being offensive, it's super lazy writing. Like, haha, like they're dressed as a girl, but they have a dick. And like, that was like their entire, but
there's also the band where it's a mix of country and rap, right? That was a bit problematic. It's like, whoa.
That was actually the band Fishbone.
Yeah.
The first thing that you really hear when they're watching those movies is they're like, oh, the stinky mooks or something, and the husband is like, oh, you can't say that or something like that. Like, she says something.
Was it like the Nice Negro Boys or whatever? It was just like, like one of the first lines is just like, oh wow.
Wow. Well, it was fun, but definitely like as you're saying with that last stuff of its time. But we got Kenzo Shibata here saying Divine blew the doors off being a drag queen in movies. Very good.
Divine was so good. Like in every John Waters movie. Like without Divine, I feel like there would have been no John Waters.
Pretty much. I was just going to say that I felt the movie, yes, it was of its time, but it also kind of is too smart for its own good.
Yeah.
It was able to like make it couldn't get a mass audience to like it because it's very specifically about Hollywood. It's very inside, and it's a movie where like people in Hollywood would like it and pass it around, and that's probably how it sold and got made is because it was so inside. But the thing is, though, is like people don't like that because it's really hard to relate. But that's why it was such great satire too. Like it was so clever and it was so smart for its own good, where nerds like us could actually watch it and really pull all this great stuff out of it. And yeah, there are a few jokes that are awkward and lazy that don't quite hold up, but there are quite a few that the majority of them do. So it makes it, I think it kind of balances out at the end.
Very cool. A lot of classic screwball comedy. Yeah, some of them are old tropes because they're doing homage. Sometimes they're just tired jokes. I hear that, but I like movies like this for the time capsule they kind of give us. You know what I mean? And 88, like for us as politicos, like it couldn't be like couldn't be a better benchmark year at the end of like Reagan's reign to have some irreverent and funny, but also barbed like this. But well, I think we should wrap it up, y'all. This has been a fun night. Forrest, thank you for coming on as the second episode, the first episode with guests. Thank you, Jay Hutch, for the kind words. Great show. Thanks, guys. Happy birthday, Andy. Yes, happy birthday, Andy.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
To all of us, really.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
True communist. I'm sharing my birthday.
Really, it's like it's his birthday, but it's all of our birthdays. It's all of our.
You guys were mentioning earlier how he was drawing stuff all day for you, Forrest, or for Ben, or whoever. In Lord of the Rings, to bring it back to my nerd shit, hobbits give gifts to everyone else on their birthday. So boom, there you go. And Jay Hutch says happy birthday, Tapeheads. But let's close it out with let's watch the trailer one more time. And it was fun. You guys have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
All right. See ya.
Hi, I'm Ivan Alex. Even Video Aces. We make rock videos. You could have find time to look at this or call me. Your name was Skip. Ivan, give us a call. Weird Al! I knew it, Mr. Yankovic. My name is Ivan Alex. I work for Video Aces. We make rock videos. I love your work. Good to see you. Let me give you my card.
Remind me to get some help.
3:30 with Ken Craig has been canceled.
Weird Al! I knew it, Mr. Yankovic. My name is Ivan Alex. I work for Video Aces. We make rock videos. I love your work. Good to see you. Let me give you my card.
Remind me to get some help.
3:30 with Ken Craig has been canceled.
It was a very fine meeting. It was good to meet you. My briefcase. Video Aces make rock.
My brother.
Stood. Cube Squared Baby Doll.
Flicken älskar inte mig. Och bakom mig ensam och sann. My baby doll. My baby doll. Doll, baby doll. My baby doll. Baby, baby, baby doll. My baby doll. My baby doll.
You! On top of that car. Back him up.
Hey, it's the Hitman.
That's them.
No, they're completely harmless. We just did their last video.
Fire. No refund! Josh, give him the money back. Go down there. You should. You should. No. You should. Listen, man. No.
If to help you guys out, we'll take it to them. Get here, Billy. We can do that much for you. We love the swanky modes.
No problem, Mom.